Today, we are facing what are the impacts of digital transformation in so many sectors. And we are facing the fact that we have a great technological availability, okay? We are talking about how to introduce AR, VR, mixed reality, or blockchain, or augmented reality into their retail processes. So I want to start this discussion asking you, in your opinion, how this adoption of different technologies that are so different one from the other has an impact, affect not only the retail space, but mainly the consumer experience.
One could also look at it to begin with from the customer or from the company standpoint, which with using the technology for insights and data collection and trends, user needs, and predict user patterns and so on. So I think this is quite an interesting part of the technologies and the roles they have in retail, really helping us to understand what people want or what they will need either before the products have been created or even test current products, helping us to improve the customer experience in this way. So really work based on insights rather than assumptions. Then, so that's more from a company perspective. If you look from the customer standpoint, obviously all technologies have changed the game in the sense that people now can shop wherever they want, whenever they want, when they're most convenient. And the interesting thing I think here as well is how this being in such a democratic place like the internet or whatever it is, it really puts the companies one against the other, and put companies next to each other that haven't been necessarily compared before in terms of consumer experience. So a company like Amazon that delivers whatever it is might be compared with any other company that delivers something. So the technology is quite interesting here, how it really puts everyone on the same page. Another important aspect as well, I think, is how the technology can help to make a more unified experience of the brand. So whether it's online or physical space, it can really help to create a bridge between the two and to really minimize this distance between the two. So rather than looking at the two different worlds, it can really help them bring the best of the two together.
I think that we have another element that in this case, for example, the pervasive connectivity is today really more intuitive interfaces and create new interaction channels and changing the customer journey. And I think that is interesting because the shopping activity becomes a widespread activities, which move to virtual world to the physical one. And in this case, digital transformation impact also to the social context in daily life, urban, territorial transformation. So I think that tended to create a new level of interaction between what we called shopping, that today I see as a more interconnection with shopping and cultural, for example, level of experience. And so I think that the new panorama of experience, the consumption activities are really interrelated with other daily activities. So in short, we find a new level of what we usually called shopping, and today probably is more connected with a daily experience. And from the point of view of customers, we can analyze how they search a more authentic brand experience, and probably technology create the right interaction. Because if I think a physical space that is, I don't know, augmented by technology, can create a new connection between products and maybe a part of heritage of the brand, because technology can really help the idea to create a new storytelling, a new narrative context, able really to transfer a different value.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Valeria, absolutely. And I have to say that in my professional experience, since today we are so used to be surrounded and supported by technology, and technology is now like an indispensable presence in our life and in our daily action. That somehow led also us to a different relation and a different dialogue between ourselves and the information. We can also say that technology is kind of a part of humanity itself today. So also for this reason, I repeat, in my experience, brands are asking more and more to introduce technology in their retail spaces.
I agree, of course, with all of you. Let me just, my opinion is that, first of all, to me, a good technology is the invisible one. So when you have a technology behind the scene, it is I mean, you can reach this because there are designers on the table, but also because technology is becoming more and more invisible, like miniaturized and small, and that can live with just a battery or with a solar cell. So basically, this is one thing. I'm a big fan of trying to mix things up. Like, for example, if you think about e-commerce, where personalization is nowadays is very common. For example, the best in class here is Netflix. If you open a Netflix on page and you look at the Netflix on page of the person close to you, is totally different, because they pick up movies, except maybe for some for the most famous one, but for the others, totally different. They also changes. Maybe this is something that is known, but not all. Everybody knows that Netflix also changes the thumbnails of the movie based on your history. So if you are a fan of thriller, for example, you will see cover of movies that are more similar, more likely loved by thriller fans. So, for example, this is a thing. So if you take this kind of a personalization, for example, inside the physical space in a retail, so I see this a lot of opportunity space. For example, Shop Associate. I saw also a question in the chat. Yes, Shop Associates to me can be empowered with artificial intelligence tool, with mobile application, to just try to offer a similar experience to the one that you can have on Amazon or Netflix, for example. Or maybe you think about RFID tag or NFC tag, that basically are small antennas put inside the products. Usually this kind of technology is there to do inventory, to do anti-theft mechanism. But now with smartphones that can read RFID and NFC, you basically put a possible way to navigate your product in the hand of the consumer. That basically just with a tap, when you see, you usually say that on a tap on the product, on the smartphone, something pop up, and maybe on digital signage around you, something changes. Also, the music, the audio can change and adapt. So there is a lot of space and inside opportunity inside retail to try to bring this technology from the online world inside the physical one. And it's not wonder to me that Amazon, for example, is opening physical store, because start with all this knowledge that is probably the first challenge of traditional brands that want to disrupt with new technologies in this field.
Once again, we have to rethink, we have to imagine a completely new approach in terms of concept. That means, of course, also a new range of design solutions. For example, shelf and display now are something that is also can be or should be something that is also a kind of interface that is able to connect us to other virtual spaces, or to to share information. So something that is completely different from what we imagined I mean, in the past year, or maybe just thinking about the new approach in terms of design of the physical space. Another example that comes into my mind is, for example, the cash desk is a piece of furniture that is going to disappear, because the payment will be made using more or less cashless devices. So, of course, as Alexio said, for sure, I totally agree, the technology must be invisible, integrated into the space, and I think also that the physical space of the future will have less product and more emotion. So that's the main change we will face in the next year.
I agree with your discourse, and I think that the starting point is that creating an optimal experience remains a central purpose for companies. This idea to live the physical experiential guide the strategic choices of those digital native brand. Is that shifting part of their strategies to physical channel. If we think about Showfields in New York, Showfields is a typical new space that I really love it for the strategies, because offer brands assistance in venturing into brick and mortar retail without the risk that come with opening a dedicated stores. And this is the approach that we can call the curatorial approach. This type of new trend, it's really connected with an idea, not just technology as an application, but technology as a new space, a new area that create implication in customer habits. For example, the physical store is probably in a right shape in Phygital, because the idea to live in a space with the entire body is a problem of interaction and ability to create a sensorial perception. And so the physical space augmented by technology permitted to have a level of innovation. On side, an innovation connected with the interaction with technology, and so the augmented space and the connection with other space, where today we can read new space of consumer, of retailing, because Today we can expertise a shopping experience on social media, for example, because the real point for me is that today the idea of complexity, the idea of multidimensional level of the problem of retailing and digital transformation is really to understand the possibility to create a new type of interactive connection between brands and customers.
Coming back to the question of if the physical space is still relevant or important, I don't think it's just one or the other. I think that they need to coexist. I think they're different parts of a bigger of a brand that should be doing different things. They should fuel each other. So they should have different roles, but they should definitely be existing, both of them. It's the physical space, I think, is so much more than a point of sale. It should be an integral part of the brand and should help the brand diversify against other brands, be it with the contents inside the store, be it with the experience inside this physical space, or with the actual location where you can actually find the space, which is obviously also loaded with information. I think we should see the physical and the digital representation of the brand as different access points that both are necessary for different reasons.
How this use of technology is impacting on the luxury experience, because we know that the luxury sector has some specific rules, that guide the sectors and also the consumers towards the sector, that are, for example, the scarcity, how to manage scarcity, how to manage selection and exclusivity. So from your point of view, how this technology can help the luxury sector to add value of their products, of their services, and how these new technologies are helping also the consumer to be more aware about the value that is by nature one of the pillars of the luxury sector.
I can start on this one. And to me, for example, well, an answer is on my first speech here that, of course, when I imagine luxury, I imagine something that is supported by associates inside the store. So not maybe less self-service and more on associate, at least on the experience side. So I think that associate can leverage tools like artificial intelligence again to recognize a customer, to propose something very particular for that, very personalized. Also, the store itself can be empowered with digital signage, with screen, with music, and that you can deliver experience, or also why not the training and learning experience for the customers. So because I agree that also probably in the future in the retail space there will be less products exposed, so you can use that space to train your customer on your values or values around your brands, like sustainability, for example. So the space can evolve, and for luxury, this is something that can also be sustainable from a profitable point of view. On the other side, I also think that the store also for a luxury can be an operational extension of the e-commerce, because maybe you want to go there to purchase stuff and then go out the store without the stuff with you, but you want that stuff at your place maybe within the same day. So you can go there, you can select, you can purchase, you maybe have a coffee, you start to chat with people there, and then when you come back at home, your products are there. Why? Because there is an operational extension of the store in this sense. So like an e-commerce again, because as I said, I'm really fan of mix these things up. For luxury, I believe that is really sustainable, because this is something that is not sustainable for fast fashion or other brands, because all this service, of course, costs money. And if you want to create content, this costs money again. So for luxury, this to me is the very point, the very trajectory that I see for luxury brand is that one.
digital technology has led companies in the luxury sector to rethink the customer journey. Rethink the customer journey to overcome the competitiveness and a really world in a continuous transformation. Today, we are in a context where the innovation is continuous. We have to understand that the process of innovation is continuous, and what is changing, as we have heard, is not only technology, but also social value, product value, and business. We are real in a context of transformation. An example for you, I don't know now, a few years ago, the introduction of a designer like Virgil Abloh as Louis Vuitton as director was a clear message, not just for Louis Vuitton, but for the luxury fashion industry. With these choices, Louis Vuitton bets on streetwear and tries to refresh its DNA. Once again, the brand presents its uniqueness by maintaining the perception of exclusivity through the political of price and scarcity by adopting the strategy of limited edition. So what the brand applies, rising digital strategies, turning to the new engagement processes such as storytelling, the use of the different touch points favored by the omni-channel system. So the concept is that always fashion brand, and particularly in the sector of luxury, have a problem for the nature of products. But I think that today technology can help. The real problem is the design process, the ability to create a new meaning of shopping. Because today we have an emerging of new value, sustainability, inclusivity. And I think that for the customers, it's not important. The customers don't understand the different level, physical, digital, luxury, but today are really connected with the value of products in our society. A society really fragile, a society that spent now 2 years with an enormous pandemic, is probably something is changing. And I think that in particular for luxury, it's important to find a new way to design, to share, and to sell, naturally, the new type of value, using a marketing strategy to create the possibility to create the sense of scarcity, of uniqueness, and what we know is peculiar in this area.
I think that you introduce a word and a concept that is very valuable in this moment, that is innovation, okay? And that is not an easy thing to reach, but I want to leave this discussion with an observation that is not easy, that is a difficult question. We see today many different types of innovation, technological innovation, market innovation, design-driven innovation. In your opinion, what does it mean today to innovate in the retail sector, in the luxury also retail sector, okay? And if maybe may I highlight some example related to good innovation in this field?
So I think innovating today, to begin with, in general, I think is to more relook how we as consumers consume products and services. So I think there are a lot of interesting examples of recent companies that have disrupted an industry. Such as WeWork did to co-working, for example. I mean, it's not a new idea, but they completely changed the concept by creating this community concept around a product. Same things with Airbnb and the hotel business, as well as Lululemon into sportswear. So really creating this community around a product. Something interesting that NIO did, the car company I mentioned before in China, as a digital or as an electric car company, being free from the old sort of boundaries of the car industry, they really looked at the whole industry around the car. So rather than having dealerships, for example, in the outskirts of the city, they opened their showrooms in the center, so next door to the Apple store, for example, and the best locations in the city. They offered a very small surface in these showrooms for actually selling cars. All of the rest, so let's say 2/3 of these so-called neo houses or these showrooms, were dedicated for the people that had already bought the cars. So really interesting, not selling products to new people, but really celebrating the people that had already bought the car. So you as a car owner, you could go to these neo houses with a QR code on your Neo app. You enter, the person inside would welcome you and with your name and ask if you would like the usual, a coffee or whatever it might be. The person can then use this, the facilities, which could be, for example, sit down and have a coffee. There's a library. There was even co-working spaces. You could even leave your children there while you went shopping. So there were child sitting, baby sitting services. So I think these are ways of how we can really look at the retail sector in a completely new way, like with new eyes, and not just think of electronic payments, but really think of what other services we can offer that are different from the usual, so to say.
Alexandra, this is a really good example. Now I think about Atelier Renault in Paris, where you can really live a particular experience connected with this idea to create a space where happen something that it's really perceived as an experience.
There's, for example, again in Shanghai, which I think is an amazing place to see examples of how the retail industry changed very quickly. I mean, the Chinese culture sort of jumped over the whole PC era. They went straight into mobile phones and are extremely used to doing everything with it. Mobile payments, whatever it is, they live their lives on the mobile phones. And there is, for example, a brand called Gentle Monster, a Korean eyewear brand, that have these amazing stores where you can walk around for hours without seeing any eyewear. It's just really refreshing, because it's like going into an art gallery. It changes on a regular basis, and you will find the longest lines outside of people just want to see this space. So people even travel to the city to see this space. Then they might not buy the eyewear, or they might buy them in the shop, or they might buy them later online or whatever. But again, so I think this is really how you can find this relationship between the physical and the digital to really mind-blowing experiences in the physical, and then comfortable and easy use in the digital part.
Saying yes, I agree. Gentle Monster stores are like this idea of having an art gallery when you hardly see the product. I think that are very, even if they don't use so much technology, I think that they are a great example of this idea of using the space even for experiment new ways to create relationship and connection with the client and develop new relation. And also this idea that we mentioned that the product that is almost disappearing for the spaces. So even in luxury, I think that really the idea is to create using also technology to create a new role for the space, a new possibility, new service, new idea of community, and having spaces more full of experience, where you first of all you enjoy, you embrace the brand, and then you can also see the product, but the product is not the focus, and the selling process is not the focus anymore of the physical space.
There's no denying that there's going to be huge impact of all things, you know, whether it's augmented reality, artificial intelligence, use of algorithms, use of this, use of, you know, it's, I just think that, especially in the luxury world, where technology is going to start impacting on how materials are used, the types of materials, smart materials, all of that, you know, this is going to impact. And the reason sorry, I know I'm going to ramble because these conversations really excite me. I've probably been more animated now than I have been for 2 days. I shouldn't really be saying that, but I was thinking, I put in there about personal experiences. I mean, you can preempt somebody's behavior before they even get to the store and determine their path in the store through the use of physical know-how. So I think, you know, these are conversations to be had. Anyway, you need to have dinner. So from all of us, Veronica, Chiara, Nick, and myself, and everybody who's here listening, you know, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.